If you are in the cybersecurity space, it's very unlikely you have not heard about AI around your organization. I mean, we're using it for things like changing my angry email into a polite email, producing code that could be used for a feature request that came in, or sweeping through a mountain of application logs to find out which one is a security incident. Now, the threats on the other hand for AI are a whole different story. I mean, the way we have built code, the way we have done security before AI is not what is designed for threats that come with AI. Let me give you an example of how we have traditionally done cybersecurity. Traditionally, if I was a developer creating code and deploying it into production, what I would do is I would have used a code that would have gone through OWASP top 10, and I would have had some kind of a tool, a security tool, go through the code that was produced and a human to verify if it makes sense, yes or no. On the other hand, when it goes into production, I would have a security operation person who's going through the application logs to understand which one of these log events is a potential security incident, and once they identify it, they raise alarms, and there's a proper workflow that's followed. Now, on both sides, on the development side as well as on the threat side for the SOC analysts, we have a known pattern. In the case of AI, however, it's very dynamic. I mean, to give you an example, just ask the same question twice, you get two different answers. So something which is dynamic and uses natural language to produce code and potentially has agentic flow, what that means is it can go and do things on its own using the identity information that has been provided. It's a very unpredictable pattern, and honestly, it sometimes may feel like, if I was to use an example, if I wanted to correct a note on my iPhone, I'm using an actual pen to figure out how do I change this note. It doesn't feel like the right tool for the right job. Now, in this video, I'll go through 3 areas that are radically changing because of threat from AI and why they should be top of mind for you if you work in the cybersecurity space and what you can do about it. The first problem is the DLP space, or the data leakage prevention space. Now, traditionally, data security is all about categorizing the right kind of data and identifying where the data should go. But it was primarily focused on things like your email client, because the biggest worry people used to have, hey, if there was a phishing campaign and someone is emailing out information which is sensitive, that was the place where a lot of the DLP used to focus on. Of course, there are other areas, but primarily people were using that as a way to prevent someone who may have been phished. If in case someone was phished, they are able to block any sensitive data from going out via email. That was a great example, and that worked really well for the non-AI era. But now in the AI space, where Shadow AI is a real thing, where developers as well as third-party SaaS applications that you may be using in your organization, they all have AI capability, which allows the user or your workforce to copy-paste information, sometimes sensitive information that may be categorized as do not copy-paste this into an LLM, is something that is a risk, and you should be aware of how to manage these risks, whether it's using something like an LLM firewall or using something like a DLP solution, a more cloud-native DLP solution which is ready for AI. For example, if you're able to discover where sensitive data is sprawling across your entire environment and being able to identify what identity or what users are accessing this data and what the data lineage is. Now, data lineage is important because you want to know that, hey, if I gave something to Ashish, who was technically the right person to have access to the information, but Ashish was feeling very nice and he copy pasted the information on to another system, which is accessed by 10 other people. Now, there's a lot more complexity to data lineage, but the simple example is making sure only the right people with the authority are able to access that data. Now, that's where these things need to evolve. So looking at DLP, not just as I have the category of data and I know where or which environment it is only in the context of an email, that's not good enough within AI world. You need to move on to the next part, next phase of AI security, which is having visibility of what kind of LLMs are running in your organization. So anyone copy pasting sensitive data into it is picked up via an LLM firewall or something similar. And second, being able to discover where your data is at any given point in time, what a data lineage is, data leakage is stopped, and data poisoning is stopped, which is also a big one for LLM models, because it's, again, data is the fuel that is driving your AI innovation, and if your data is poisoned, probably not a good thing. So monitoring for actions like these, especially from users, is a great way to take that step 1 towards identifying where your gaps may be for DLP and how you need to fix them. Now, talking about identity, this is a big one, especially now that AI is agentic, as we call it, which also means it's autonomous. It can do things without waiting for a decision from a human. That makes it really scary. Because traditionally, as someone who has started his career in identity and access management 15 plus years ago, I can tell you this: most of the identity and access management conversations were primarily focused on, hey, what's a SAML, single sign-on, MFA, username password for Ashish, the actual user, and very little about system users. To an extent, we'll talk about, hey, we should do SAML to third-party SaaS applications like Salesforce and Asana and Slack and all of that. And that used to be good enough for security for identity. Now, an AI agent could use technically my credentials, me as my username password, and pretend to be Ashish 24/7, working efficiently as the best employee of the organization. Or it could have machine user identity, sometimes known as non-human identity or NHI, where they don't have a link to an identity, but they themselves have username passwords that they can use to perform actions. Now, that is a problem because traditionally identity people have primarily focused, as I said, on username, password, MFA, single sign-on, but we've never given attention to machine users or NHI. The reason for this is because that's usually thought of as, hey, that's on the application side, they should be taking care of it. So there's a bit of a gap where if an application is building an AI agent and they're giving credential access, which is not single sign-on, not giving MFA, not matching credentials, there's a whole plethora of things that could go wrong. Or even an AI agent that has access to sensitive data. Going back to my first point, having all that linked together in the case of an AI first world is very important for you to have visibility into that particular identity floating across your organization. Which means if you have a security operation, you need to be aware of the normal behavior of identity in your organization, as well as an abnormal behavior for people in your organization. Like for example, why is Ashish logging in at 9 p.m. in the night from London when he's actually based out of San Francisco? Food for thought. Now this brings me to the third and probably the most important one, because this is a growing problem and most people are not even looking at this the right way. I'm going to use two acronyms, MCP and A2A. MCP is multi-context protocol and A2A is agent-to-agent protocol. If you haven't got a clue of what that is, in simple terms, it just means that how AI agents talk to each other. Now, this is going to be a big one because traditionally we have never had AI agents before. So this is a complete unknown to a large extent, but we can use existing security guardrails to help at least reduce the possibility of an attack. Like for example, because MCP and A2A are written by a code, having OWASP top 10 or a pen test being done, or being aware of what kind of LLM models should be allowed in your organization and what kind of MCP servers you should allow in your organization, what kind of guardrails from your cloud provider you should be using for the models that you're interacting with, that the AI agent can talk to. Having a visibility into all of that and standardizing it across your organization would be a big factor in having control on this growing problem of AI agent sprawl and MCP sprawl that you would be seeing in your enterprise in the times to come. Because believe it or not, that's how AI agents talk to each other today. They might be MCP 2.0, A2A 2.0, and many more that may come tomorrow. But at least this is a growing space that you need to keep an eye on, which the current security stack is not at all designed for. But at least you can have hygiene covered, which should hopefully reduce the exposure that may be caused by this particular risk. Now, a bonus one that I want to throw into this, which a lot of CISOs may or may not be considering, is browser security. Think about it. Most of your interaction with Agentic AI is based on a browser where it opens up a browser and goes and does this thing. A great example for this is the operator from OpenAI, as well as the recently launched Google Beam from Google, of course, that opens up a browser for a particular task you may have been given. Like for example, if I wanted to book a flight to Miami tomorrow between 2 and 3, but it has to be the cheapest flight, this operator or Google Beam can go and do that, do the research, find the right kind of price point, book the ticket, and come back and let me know what my flight schedule is. All of that is being driven by browser. Specifically an enterprise browser is what I'm talking about, where I think the stat is about 60 to 70% of everything that we do in our work is technically on a browser. So if all your AI agents and all your third-party SaaS softwares have AI in there, browser becomes that one entry point for all your AI problems potentially moving forward. So browser security would be a big one. There's not a lot of vendors who are in this particular space today. That's also another security stack that you would see growing and taking shape shape as the AI problem evolves. Now, in spite of saying all of this, I do want to call out that I don't want the AI train to stop. I want it to be running fast because that means people like you and I can speed up our jobs, be more productive. But it's about giving an understanding that today's security stack in most organizations may not be ready for some of the threats that are about to come. But as long as you follow basic hygiene, to an extent, you can use your current security stack to get by. Moving forward, the AI threats are going to be very different. And some of these areas that I called out should be top of mind for you as you explore what you should invest in next in terms of your security stack. Do you agree with what I shared? What did I miss in terms of the security stack that is not ready for the AI wave that is coming at us at bullet speed? Now, if you enjoyed this video, definitely hit the like button so I know you want more content like this from me. And if you want to hear more about AI security and the real world implementation of Agentic AI, MCP and all of that, definitely hit the subscribe button to know when the next video comes out as well. I look forward to talking to you in the comments. I'll talk to you soon. Peace.